Hello, guys. I hope you guys took a little break from chapter 9 and came back in and jumped into chapter 10, where we're talking about assessment of intelligence and general ability, right? So, when we talk about intelligence, we're talking about individuals' intelligence in specific areas, individuals' intelligence and ability levels to perform different tasks. Again, when we talk about kids, it's kind of easy, it's not easy to measure, but it's measurable because at certain grade levels, they're expected to have certain levels of intelligence and ability, right? But when you get into adulthood, you have different types of intelligences, right? So assessing intelligence and general ability is important, again, but it can be done differently within adults and children. So let's talk about a little bit about intelligence. It's often conceptualized as a general intellectual ability, but there's a little agreement on what specific skills or abilities contribute to intelligence, right? So it's a complex construct. It has to be operationalized, right? So again, talking about adults and kids, it's different, harder to measure adults. Where for kids, you can do it in terms of grade level and what the grade level ability skill is and the ability level should be. So definitions of intelligence: you have the general intelligence factor, ability traits, multiple intelligences, and information processing ability. The common factors of intelligence are a way an individual adapts to their environment, their surroundings, basic mental processes, higher order thinking. Again, we want in education, we always say we want to get individuals to higher order thinking where they're just not remembering or regurgitating the content that they learned. They're able to grow, stretch, create, analyze, and create with the material, right? Information processing. We want aware and also awareness and control of cognitive processes. Can they control their cognitive processes? Do they are they able to utilize cognitive process to help them function function in a state where they are effective in whatever task they're trying to do. So intelligence tests. They're a broad spectrum of cognitive abilities. We have abstract reasoning, knowledge, memory, which is very important. How can they recall information? Nonverbal reasoning. Again, how you reason um, or communicate without that level of verbal expression. Numerical reasoning, perceptual ability, processing speed, reasoning, spatial ability, and verbal comprehension. So intelligence tests produce an IQ, which we call an intelligence quotient, right? There are individual intelligence tests and there are group intelligence tests. The three main type of tests are intelligence tests, achievement tests, and aptitude tests. We'll talk about each here as we move on. So in individual intelligence tests, one example would be the Western scales, right? So you have the Western adult intelligence scale, the Western intelligence scale for children, the Western preschool or primary scale of intelligence, right? Those are the most widely used intelligence tests, right? So they're designed to evaluate cognitive strengths and weaknesses. They're excellent predictors of academic success. They're used for screening for potential problems, identification of intellectual ability, placement of individuals, and support and clinical evaluation. So intelligence, achievement, and aptitude tests. So again, intelligence tests measure an individual's current intellectual ability, where you are right now, what do you know right now in certain aspects of whatever intelligence we're talking about. Achievement tests measure what an individual knows and can do right now in the present. Like the assessment that I gave you right now, you would look at as an achievement test because again, I'm going to give you a test on what you know right now over the material right now. Aptitude test is a future oriented. It predicts what an individual can be capable of doing with further training or education, like the ACT or SAT. Those are what we call aptitude tests. So here's an example: the Wechsler's Adult Intelligence Scale, right? The fourth edition is a full-scale IQ test. It has four index scores: verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory index, and processing speed. Now remember, we want them to be valid in measuring whatever index that we're discussing, right? So all four of those index should be valid in measuring that concept, right? So the full scale IQ and index scores mean there's a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. If we were in class right now, I would put up a picture of the normal bell curve just because this falls on a normal bell curve. You would put the mean at 100 right down the middle. And as you go over 115. As you go over 2, it's 130, and so on because it's the standard deviation is deviating 15 for the mean, right? For the 15 subtest, the mean is 10 and the standard deviation is 3. Here's an example of that. I'll let you guys look that over for a second. Look at that where it says perceptual reasoning and perceptual rank equals 5. It says this would demonstrate that Mr. Jones presents with significant perceptual difficulties, reasoning difficulties, right? And again, each of those interpretations provides a percentile rank and also provides a little information on what the result is, right? So that's how that would look when providing information on the results of the test. So the Wechsler's intelligence scale for children, the WIS-4, is a fourth generation of and the most widely used children intellectual ability test. This is used when people are assessed in school for IEPs and in school for different levels of intelligence and ability. Right, there are 15 subtests and 4 index scores: verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory index, and processing speed. Right, with a full scale IQ score is provided. Right, again, school psychologists administer this test. This is not really a test that counselors would administer. Here's an example of the composite score and how you see again, we talked about graphs in our last class. You can see how the graph is ranking and how it's flowing with each one of those different profiles or one of those different composites, right? So the preschool and primary scale of intelligence, the WPPSI 3, right, is used for children ages 4 to 6, 6.5 years of age, with 14 subtests, and scores are similar to the Wechsler test, with 5 index scores. See, there's another one added here: verbal comprehension, visual spatial index, working memory index, fluent reasoning, and processing speed. Those are all the composites that are measured. You can see here, this is how the score will look for here. When it's after assessed and how it's after it's scored, it gives you a percentile rank, composite score. It gives you the qualitative description of it. You can see the kiddo scored an average on each of those or whatnot. Again, this helps to actually provide information on the scoring and the results of the test. So we have the Stanford Binet intelligence test, right? So Alfred Binet is the inventor in the early 1900s. He said intelligence is general ability to judge, comprehend, and reason well. He developed a series of measures to identify children for whom it was necessary to provide special education programs for. It has a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. So again, put this on a normal bell curve. Right down the middle line is going to be what? 100, and it will go over 15 each or 15 back because the standard deviation is deviating 15 from the mean on each score, right? And down here, as you can see at the bottom here, it has an internal consistent reliability ranging from 0.95 to 0.98, which is really close to 1 and very, very reliable, right? So this is a score that's really, really reliable and it's going to be pretty effective and accurate and with the results for whoever's tested. The Kaufman instruments. So Kaufman assessment battery for children. This is from children aged from 3 to 18 years old. There are 5 cognitive abilities that are assessed: learning, sequential processing, simultaneous processing, planning, and knowledge. Right? And Kaufman's adolescents of adult intelligence from ages 11 to 85 yield scores on both crystal and fluid intelligence and IQ score. So group intelligence tests, right? Group testing began with the Army Alpha and the Army Beta test in World War I. They was used when a large number of examinees must be evaluated either simultaneously or within a time frame, right? It's commonly used when for screening purposes, so screening individuals for what their intelligence are, what their abilities are, whatnot. But you use these when you're assessing a large group of individuals. So we also have group cognitive abilities test, appropriate for K to 12, measures learning reasoning abilities in verbal, quantitative, and nonverbal areas. You have the Otis Lennon School Ability Test, the APHIDIT, which is appropriate for school age children, often used to screen for gifted and talented programs. You have Raymond's Progress matrices. Have 3 formats designed to work with different ages and ability groups to measure fluid intelligence. Then you have your specialized test. These are intelligence tests developed for specific use for specific populations, specific kiddos, specific individuals and whatnot that have certain skill sets, or you're trying to measure certain things, right? So you have the Beatty's scale of infant development, McCarthy's scales of children's abilities. You have individuals with learning disabilities or other learning disabilities. You have the Leiter International Performance Scale, or a test of nonverbal intelligence. For gifted students, you have the Structure of Intellectual Learning Abilities Test, gifted screening forms. And individuals from diverse cultural or linguistic backgrounds, you have the Comprehensive Test of Nonverbal Language and Cultural Fairness Intelligence Test. So there are some issues within testing intelligence. Again, it's very hard to measure intelligence with adults because you got different types of intelligence and whatnot. But intelligence is one general ability or many. That's a question that's always been asked. Is it made up of multiple different constructs or just one? Is intelligence hereditary or learned? Nature versus nurture. There's always been that argument. Does nature or environment play more of a bigger role, or does nurture and develop and modeling play more of a role? How we overcome cultural bias in intelligence tests is always going to be an issue because cultural bias within tests. Talking about the population of how the test development, who was in part of the experimentation or research for the test. Is intelligence stable over a lifespan as we grow? Does our IQ or intelligence levels diminish or get better or get stronger depending on the individual? How do we account for increasing IQ scores over the last 100 years? The Flynn effect, right? They say there's rising 3 points a decade and individual or social issues that can impact that. That concludes chapter 10. And you guys take a break and we'll get back and dive into chapter 11.